So since we've been talking for a long time and some of the other segments are quite long, we'll try to summarize Europe a bit just because there hasn't been a huge change against some of our expectations. So when we look at the aggregate, you can see that the investor confidence was expected at negative 10.1, came in at negative 8.7. Retail sales were right in line with our expectations on a month-over-month level. That's something that we see continuing in March and likely getting worse as we come through, which is some of those concerns that we have around the European theater. It's just because of the retail side or the consumer, because industrial production is fairly flat. Like we don't see too much up and down. Construction's under pressure, but on the industrial side, it's held in quite firm. ZEW survey expectations continues to diminish in terms of the expectations. And then you look at current accounts. So the CPI side is the one that we want to talk about for a minute because the expectations were 6.9%. The actual was 6.9%. And then the revised went from 6.9 to 8.5. So you're seeing this problem that continues to permeate this within Europe. And then a month over month, expected at 0.9, came in at 0.9. CPI core came in at 5.7. So you're getting this perpetual problem, and it's not going away. And based on what OPEC has done, based on the pressures there in terms of Iraq unable to get crude through the sea and into Turkey, there's a lot of pressure on the commodity front. And that's why when you look at what the ECB is going to do, they're going to be stuck again, pushing rates back up, which is why consumer confidence was expected at negative 18.5, came in at negative 17.5, slightly better. But when you look at the consumer front and how that will translate to retail sales, because it was negative in March, which is why retail is going to be and the consumer is where we see the most pain going forward. Now you look at Germany. So Germany, the CPI was expected at 0.8, came in at 0.8 year over year, 7.4. So again, there's no slowdown. And it's when you look at prior, it's held consistent versus where it was in February. And because of the OPEC shift, we should have seen an improvement. We didn't. So that means that April is likely to see an acceleration to the upside. Wholesale prices actually increased versus the previous month to 2% by 0.1, still kind of in between. But all of these things are putting pressure in Germany. So the survey expectations expected at 15.6 came in at 4.1. Current situation expected at negative 40 came in at negative 32.5. So the expectations and the current situation are still diminishing, but the expectations are deteriorating quickly. And that's because of the consumer side and based on what has happened with OPEC, which is going to keep that pressure in the market, which is why we have those concerns. PPI did start to come down again, expected to be at negative 0.6, came at negative 2.6, which is a positive, but it's going to be important to see what does diesel do, what does gasoline do, and how do those commodities, again, impact the German markets. France actually saw a bit of an acceleration of CPI, expected to be at 0.8, came in at 0.9, year over year, expected at 5.6, came in at 5.7. So you're starting to see those pressure points, and this is a period of time that, again, as we said, should have seen a decline, instead saw an increase. And when you look at Germany coming back to electricity prices, they have now shuttered their final nukes. So now they're going to be fully exposed to what happens with renewables, what happens with the ability to import from France, and France is struggling to bring back their own nuclear reactors. So now when you look at business confidence, expected at 103, came in at 102. Manufacturing confidence came in at 101 versus the expectations of 103. And you're just seeing, so retail sales expected to be, previously was at negative 4.3, came in March at negative 5.6. So again, the pressure is there, but even as the consumer struggles and that pressure is there, inflation isn't moving. And that's the thing that the ECB is going to focus on because they have after years and years of negative rates, which was ridiculous to begin with, now they are dealing with this excess liquidity that they have to take out of the market, and that's going to keep them pushing things higher. So now when we turn to Italy, industrial production was expected to be at 0.5, came in at negative 0.2. Everything else was revised slightly better, but still negative. Industrial production year on year expected at negative 0.6, came at negative 2.3. So, and then you look at CPI, it came in right around 8.1%. So you're still seeing this pressure, and Italy is kind of in a weird spot right now because I'm not sure if it's going up or down. I know where Germany is. Things are getting a bit worse there. France, same thing. But Spain now, as you can see, CPI and inflation continues to ramp up. So there's really nothing in the main European economies that are telling the ECB we can pause or even cut. It's all in the direction of going up, continuing to raise rates, which is going to put more pressure on those markets. So we're going to have a bit more on Europe next week, just because there was some of the data, there wasn't too much that came out. Things typically slow down even more in Europe for Easter than here. So as we go into next week, we'll have a bit more of color of some of those directions, because we do see things deteriorating faster in the summer months for Europe, especially as you're going to get another bite from the lack of natural gas availability. You're now going to get the full impact of not having that nuclear capacity in Germany as we come into, if we have a hot summer, what is that going to mean? So there's going to be a lot of pieces to unpack that we'll go through. And in the next segment, we're going to go deeper into China and Asia in general, and what are some of the impacts that we see there.